Welcome back to the Ghosty Girls podcast. I'm Christina.
Oh my God, I'm Alicia.
Alicia's over there eating her egg, ketchup, and biscuit sandwich from McDonald's.
So
yeah.
Your cat's also eating a piece of the egg.
I'm sure she is. It's a dreary day today, even though it's summer.
Yeah, but it was just 100 degrees outside for like 4 days in a row.
It's been, I don't know. Us East Coasters are like dying over here. I feel like West Coast, you guys are like used to this kind of heat. Oh, excuse her. She did a sippy. But us East Coasters over here, we're like literally dying.
We're dying.
We're dying inside. We're dying outside. We're just dying. You know?
Basically, yeah. It's a lot over here with this heat.
It is.
And we say that, and it's only 68 today. But yesterday was 104. So
yeah. It was bad. I went to the beach. I got sunburnt. Probably got heat stroke. I don't know.
Yeah. You look a mess. I'm just kidding.
I do. No, I do.
You absolutely do not. I'm just kidding. She couldn't look a mess if she tried.
Yeah, no, I look pretty beat, but that's fine.
You don't.
We have our days.
You look like you're like glowing. You got that like sun sheen glow.
Oh, thanks.
I'm jelly.
Well, my sunburn on my face faded, so there's that.
Yeah, it looks glowy.
Yeah. But, since it's summer, I've been kind of looking for like some summer cases to do.
Okay.
And I did Eileen Warnos. So now I'm going to do a summer camp one. Yeah. Yeah. Today's story takes us back in time to the summer of 1986.
Is this also a movie?
No, it's not.
With someone named
it should be, though.
Jason Voorhees?
It should be a movie because it's real crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is a crazy one.
I thought you were just setting me up to like tell me the plot of Jason.
I should have. But yeah, summer of 1986, a simple time. Many people claim that the 80s and 90s were the best time to be a kid.
They were.
Specifically in the summer. And we all know that one of the most exciting and popular summer events that a kid could partake in was summer camp, right?
I never got to go to summer camp.
I never went to summer camp, but I would assume that it's very exciting. I went to band camp during the summer.
Of course you did.
And it sucked. Okay, in my defense, I was a flag twirler. They're officially called Silks. The group was called Silks.
Okay.
I don't like that term, but it was like the girls with the flags, and we would twirl the flags around and wear sparkly outfits and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was all right. I got to go to every football game for free, which was fun.
Sweet.
Yeah, but some of the girls on there were fucking bitches.
Better than being
Y'all
a cheerleader,
know who you are. Yeah, I don't know. They were catty too.
You know what? I can't say that because my sister-in-law was a cheerleader.
Oh, okay.
Right? And until I met Jack, I never knew her or any of that. So I was always like, oh, I'm a real athlete. I played softball and hockey and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And one day we went to one of her cheer competitions.
Yeah.
I might have told you this before.
No, you haven't.
Not like just on the sidelines at a football game, but an actual competition. Like
they
like
go
the
hard.
movie Bring It On.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Mm-hmm. Those girls and boys are fucking athletes.
They are. Yeah. I couldn't do it.
Stuff that they can do, and the girls that some of the girls and the boys lift and just flip them around. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see in person, and ever since that I've had a whole new respect for cheerleaders.
Yeah, they do a lot.
Long story long.
We digress already. But they do cheerleading summer camps too. There's a summer camp for literally everything.
Nice.
Yeah. I never went to. Oh my God, my cat just tried to mount Alicia.
We're besties.
But yeah, there's a summer camp for literally everything. It's crazy. I only went to band, but that was enough for me. It wasn't overnight though.
Okay.
The camp that I'm going to talk about today, it was an overnight camp, and it was pretty bougie too.
So Jack's coworker, his son goes to camp in New Hampshire for a month at a time. Mm-hmm. And he loves it.
It's got to be so expensive, though.
He started going when he was 7. He said, the first week he was, terrified. But then after that, it's, his favorite thing. And he goes back every year. He's, 12 or 13 now.
That's nice.
I know. But I'm I'm such a helicopter. Like, I'd have to be a camp counselor.
Some of the shit that goes on at these camps, man.
Listen.
I mean, speaking of today.
I'm so sorry. I keep digressing.
No, you're fine. But it's just like, this is a prime example of like, you send your kid away to summer camp and then they don't come home. Spoiler alert. But also, it's a murder podcast. So, I mean.
Yeah. Y'all knew what was going to happen.
You knew. High school senior Eric Kane, he had actually just completed his sophomore year. He was really looking forward to Camp Takayo, which was an upscale, i.e. rich and bougie people only, sports camp for boys. Another boy, Jacob Weidman, who was the same age as Eric, was also returning to the summer camp this year. And they were really excited for this summer because apparently every year the oldest boys were taken on a West Coast National Park road trip, which would include the Grand Canyon and Yellowstone National Park.
That would be awesome.
Yes. So this was a huge deal for them. And again, like I think I've said this before, but if you haven't been to the Grand Canyon, you need to. It's a must. The Grand Canyon is just, it's beautiful.
I've only seen it from a plane.
You need to go and like just stand and look, and like it makes you feel very small. So this West Coast National Park road trip would consist of Eric, Jacob, 2 other boys around the same age, and also a counselor named Bill Hammond. So Counselor Bill rents an Oldsmobile, and the 5 of them head off on their summer camp road trip. About 2 weeks into their road trip, the group got a little off course on their way to the Grand Canyon, and they ended up in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Is that where all the alien spaceships are?
When I went to Arizona, there was a lot about aliens. Like that was like a big theme in like all of the stores we went to in Arizona. So I would imagine, there's
somewhere else I
aliens
haven't been. We need to do a
You've never been to Arizona?
No. Well, if I did, it's just like passing through.
It's really cool. I actually want to do a road trip and rent a car and just drive through the desert. And like, because it's so cool. You'll see, like when we drove through for our Grand Canyon tour, you'll look over and there'll just be like wild horses running.
Aww.
Yeah. Like animals will be crossing the road. Like it's really, really cool.
That's cool.
And actually Daddy T has a friend who lives in Arizona, and we keep saying that we want to go visit them and then rent a car and drive to Vegas and just go through the deserts and stuff and stay in Vegas for a couple days. Because y'all know I love me some Vegas. So just to get a little bit into, the major players in this story, Jacob Weidman was described as friendly by his peers. He was popular, good at sports. His father was actually an author. He was well liked at camp, but he did have what was described as a hyperactive streak that was a little concerning to others. One camper described Jacob's behavior as bizarre, almost like he was quote unquote possessed at times. Ew. And he would just have these like weird episodes for no reason. So he would be like completely normal, and then all of a sudden like a switch would flip.
And this is the counselor.
This was Jacob Weidman. He was one of the boys.
The boys. Okay.
The counselor is Counselor Bill.
Counselor Bill. Got it.
Eric Kane, on the other hand, wasn't very sporty, but he was gifted musically. He also loved science, and he loved to read. He really excelled at reading and academics. Eric was described as caring and kind and was just an all-around sweet boy. And we all know that boys like this can become unfairly targeted amongst their peers. And allegedly, some of the other teenage boys did pick on Eric a little bit because he was more, kind and sensitive and sweet. He wasn't like the sporty, roughhousing boys at the sports camp.
Yeah.
So the night,
asshole.
Yeah. So the night that they ended up in Flagstaff, Arizona, the group decided to split up and do their own thing. They all wanted to eat at different places and do different things. Eric actually went to the movie theater by himself to see Top Gun. And I added that in because I know Alicia is a huge Val Kilmer, a.k.a. Iceman fan. Yeah, so that's the last movie he ever saw was Top Gun.
I mean, not a bad last movie to see.
Yeah, it's a banger of a movie. After the movie, Counselor Bill picked Eric up from the theater and drove him back to his motel room in Flagstaff that he was sharing with Jacob for the night. Unfortunately, Counselor Bill decided to stay with the other 2 teenage boys in another motel room. Had he stayed with Eric and Jacob in their room, this story may have ended a little differently. According to Counselor Bill, there was a knock on his door in the middle of the night, sometime around 12 a.m., and he went to the door to see Jacob, who asked him if he could borrow the car keys because he wanted to sit in the car by himself and listen to music. Counselor Bill thought nothing of this, which, in my opinion, is weird. Like, I would never give a teenager the keys to my rented car. Mm-mm. But also, this is the 80s, and times were very different back then. I mean, I still think it's an odd choice for him, but that's just my opinion. Yeah. So,
yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I would have been like, you can listen to music in your room.
Yeah, go wake your room.
Bye. So Counselor Bill goes to bed, figuring he will just get the keys from Jacob in the morning. Morning comes. Counselor Bill goes to wake up Eric and Jacob because they need to get on the road. Opens up the door. Eric and Jacob are nowhere to be found.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. In the room was a bloody handprint on the wall and a bed that was absolutely covered in blood. Counselor Bill then realizes that the rented Oldsmobile is no longer parked in the parking lot. It's gone. It's at this point that Counselor Bill is like, fuck, I got a problem here. So he calls 911.
Smart.
Yeah. Police arrive. They search the motel room and find the body of 16-year-old Eric Kane sitting on the toilet, dead. Upon further inspection, officers found that Eric had been stabbed to death. Mm-hmm. The knife was then found by the bed. So they had a dead body, a murder weapon, and a missing teenager. Police originally thought that maybe someone had broken into the motel room, killed Eric, kidnapped Jacob, and taken off in the car. No one even thought that Jacob could be capable of doing something like this.
Yeah, that definitely wouldn't be your first thought.
Right. Yep. And robbery also could have been a motive because the boys' belongings were gone. And in the car was some cash as well as about $3,000 in traveler's checks in Counselor Bill's name. And just to put that into perspective, $3,000 in today's money equals about $9,000. So that's a lot of money.
That is. Do they still do traveler's checks?
I don't even know. I've never even seen a traveler's check. So I don't know.
It's crazy.
Yeah. About 3 days after Eric was discovered murdered in the Flagstaff motel, the abandoned blue Oldsmobile rented by Counselor Bill was found near a bus station in Phoenix, Arizona, which was about 2 hours away from the motel. The boys' belongings were still there, but the cash and the traveler's checks were missing, and there was also no sign of Jacob Weidman. Investigators were able to track the cashed traveler's checks, and they were used all over the place. Bus stations, airports, and also hotels spanning from Los Angeles, California, all the way to New York.
What?
Yeah. Very weird. So they come to find out that over the course of a week, Jacob had been using these traveler's checks to travel all over the country until he ultimately ran out of money and was stuck in Minnesota, which is super random. Not knowing what else to do, Jacob decided to call his family. His family then hired him a lawyer and brought him back to Arizona to be questioned by police. Since the Weidman family had hired a lawyer, and remember, the Weidman family, they were well off. The father was an accomplished author, so they had the money.
Yeah.
And Jacob was advised not to speak to the authorities, so they essentially had nothing. The evidence was only circumstantial, and without a confession, there just wasn't much to go on. They didn't have the story. They didn't know what happened. So the very next day, the judge actually determined that there was not sufficient evidence to arrest Jacob, and Jacob was released to his parents. After that, the Weidman family moved to Massachusetts, where they admitted Jacob to a psychiatric hospital. Shortly after he was admitted, Jacob contacted a detective at the Flagstaff Police Department of his own accord and confessed to the murder of Eric Kane. And this conversation was recorded.
Oh, Lord.
On the recording, Jacob said, quote, "I murdered Eric Kane. I deeply, deeply regret what happened. I want you to understand that, and I want everybody to understand that. It was not premeditated. It was a result of a lot of buildup of a lot of different emotions. I never thought about it. I just woke up and didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't thinking straight. And that to me is like the most scary kind of murder. Just no motive at all. He just literally woke up and chose violence.
Yeah, he woke up, saw his roommate, and
killed him while he was on the toilet.
I can't.
I know, it's crazy. And it's at this point that more details about Jacob Weidman began to emerge. Allegedly, Jacob's family knew about his mental issues, and they had had problems with him in the past, including a time when he stole and crashed the family car. Yeah, so there were some signs that Jacob was troubled, but they admittedly did not really know what to do to help him. Also, again, this is in the 80s. Mental health wasn't really a huge concern back then.
But I mean, if my child was
stealing a car and
stealing cars, I don't think I'd send him to a bougie ass camp. I think I'd send him to like
probably not the best idea.
No.
I did read that at one point Jacob was treating with a psychiatrist, but it's unclear at what age that happened and if he was continuing treatment. I would venture to say he probably wasn't.
Well, no, definitely not.
Another interesting detail is that this actually isn't the first time that the Weidman family was involved in a murder. When Jacob was just 6 years old, his uncle, Robbie Weidman, was sentenced to life in prison for the death of a man during a robbery that Robbie was assisting in committing.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And Jacob's father, who again was an author, actually wrote a book detailing his brother's crime and the time that he was on the run. So Jacob's own uncle had been involved in a murder and robbery and then fled. And then Jacob essentially did the same thing.
Did Jacob read the book?
Probably.
Ooh.
Probably. After this confession, Jacob was ordered to be admitted to a juvenile detention center in Arizona until a judge ultimately decided to try Jacob as an adult for the murder of Eric Kane. Because the Kane family was heavily pushing for the death penalty, Jacob decided to plead guilty to first-degree murder and theft charges because, remember, he had stolen all of that money from Counselor Bill, and he had also stolen a car. Apparently, the only reason he pled guilty was because if this went to trial, he more than likely would have been facing the death penalty. And Jacob, at that time, didn't want to die. In his statement to the court during his sentencing, Jacob stated, quote, "Not a day has passed that I have not wished with all of my heart that there was something I could do to take back my actions. I wish there was something I could say to the Kane family to express my feelings, but when it comes down to it, sorry seems kind of weak and kind of empty to me, and undoubtedly to them as well. I feel helpless in the face of the destruction I have caused, and I hate myself for it." End quote. The Kane family was unmoved by this statement, and they continued to be disappointed that the death penalty was now not an option for the boy who had taken away the life of their beloved son. They were pissed.
Yeah. I could see that.
So with that, Jacob Weidman was then sentenced to life in prison. Now, as I have explained in prior episodes, contrary to popular belief, a sentence of life in prison does not equal life in prison. I know that's super confusing because it really doesn't make sense. A true sentence of life in prison is the sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Right.
When Jacob was sentenced under Arizona law, a sentence of life in prison equaled 25 years to life, which means that Jacob would be eligible for parole 25 years into his sentence. So the 25 years is mandatory. Right. After that, he is up for parole. So when Jacob first went to prison, he became very suicidal and he just wanted to die. So, and this is really crazy. In an attempt to up his chances of receiving a death sentence, he actually falsely confessed to the murder of 22-year-old college student Shelley Wiley, whom he had never even met.
Because he just wanted...
He wanted to die. He was suicidal. He didn't want to be in prison.
Suicide by confession?
Exactly. Yup.
Is that a thing?
Mm-hmm. Yep. He apparently read about Shelley's murder in the newspaper and decided that he wanted to confess so that he could receive a death sentence. And in Jacob's own words, he attempted suicide by falsely confessing.
Oh, shit.
Yup. Yeah. So it's safe to say that Jacob definitely wasn't doing well mentally, but luckily he was assigned a therapist in prison to help him work through his mental issues. And in 1997, he was ultimately diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy, which he managed with medication. And in his prison medical records, it's noted that Jacob was quote unquote calm for the first time. And just to describe some of the symptoms of temporal lobe epilepsy, he would have experienced things like hallucinations, anxiety attacks, altered perceptions, visual distortions, like sweating, shaking, stiffening or jerking of the body, confusion. And I feel like this kind of explains why people would say he seemed possessed at some points.
Well, yeah.
Yep. So that's what he was actually suffering from.
Wow.
So he could have had some kind of an episode.
Yeah.
While he was killing Eric. Because, I mean, he even said himself, like, I have no idea. I just woke up and just killed him. Not saying it's an excuse, but...
Yeah, he
has a medical condition.
Yeah, he literally may not have even known what he was doing. It's like sleep murder.
Yeah, I don't think he did. I think he had no idea.
Wow.
And he's 16 years old. So, you know, he's untreated, undiagnosed.
Yeah.
I mean...
Scared. Stole the car and rolled out.
Oh, yeah. Yep. In his I think I said this already, but I'll say it again just in case. In his prison medical records, it's noted that Jacob was quote unquote calm for the first time after he began his medication. And his calmness apparently led to some solid relationships being formed in his life. And this is another really crazy detail. Jacob ended up marrying his prison psychologist.
Oh, no.
They were, in prison. They were married for a couple of years.
Oh, Lord.
They got divorced. And then he ultimately married yet another one of his prison psychologists, Marta DeSoto, in 2013. And the two have remained together ever since. And if anyone else thinks that it's a little strange that this dude married not one, but two of his prison psychologists, you're not alone, because I, too, think that that's really fucking weird.
That is weird.
I also, would that not be a conflict of interest? I don't know.
He probably had to change therapists after that.
I would think so.
I mean, or not.
Yeah.
I don't freaking know.
That's just wild. It's very like Joker and Harley Quinn.
It is. It's odd.
Yeah. I'm not trying to judge, but it's a little different, and I'll just leave it at that.
Two of them.
Two.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. And actually, Eric Kane's family, they used that like when he was up for parole, because they were like, he's clearly manipulating people. He's manipulating psychologists.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's their opinion, but also they wanted him to stay in prison forever. So, of course, they took that as proof that he was manipulative.
I mean, you don't know. Like, maybe a 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
Maybe he's manipulative and like this like crazy genius. Or maybe he legit, after he after he was treated, was like a whole different person.
Yeah.
But still, as a psychiatrist, like
you got to draw the line somewhere. I don't know. In 2016, after serving 30 years in prison, Jacob was granted parole. Now, because you all know my thoughts on rehabilitation in prison, and because Jacob was a child when he committed this murder, I just want to take a moment to highlight that Jacob did put in the work in prison to quote unquote rehabilitate himself. During his 30 years in prison, he attended therapy, he took all of his medications, and he also earned several degrees. He was also described by all as a model prisoner. Like, he didn't cause any problems. He wasn't violent. He was just doing his thing. Yep. In a direct quote from Jacob himself from the podcast series The Marshall Project entitled Violation, Jacob said, All the work that I have done over these years to understand why I did what I did and to heal from my mental health struggles was done to become the best man that I can be and to ensure that I never commit another act of violence in my life. And if you're interested in this case and you want to know more about it, like specifically Jacob Weidman's side of the story, be sure to listen to the podcast series. It's called Violation by the Marshall Project. And it follows his life in prison and, you know, all of his struggles with the parole board and his mental health issues and getting married twice and all that. It's very, very interesting. And I'll link that in the show notes. It was actually a huge source of information for this episode because there's just not a lot of information and details out there about this. There's just not.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. So shout out to the Marshall Project for providing a lot of info so that I could fill in the blanks for this one because it wasn't easy. So things are starting to look up for Jacob. He is, according to himself, rehabilitated and he's no danger to society. He's out living his life. You know, he's married to his second prison psychologist. They're by all accounts doing well. The conditions of his parole included no driving and no drinking alcohol. Mm-hmm. Pretty standard. And also that he had to keep up with his psychologist appointments.
I mean, she lives with him, so.
Yeah. Well,
I know.
At that
I'm
point,
just kidding.
Yeah, I was going to say, at that point, he's got to get a new one because that is a little conflict of interest. Mm-hmm. But anywho, in a shocking twist, just 9 months after Jacob was released from prison, he was rearrested and brought back to prison for a parole violation. And he's currently still in prison to this day for that violation. And what that violation was, is he allegedly did not keep up with his appointments with his psychologist whilst on parole. Now, Jacob's attorney insists that this was all just a huge misunderstanding. He states that it was a mix-up with Jacob trying to schedule an appointment with a psychologist. He says that, you know, he made multiple calls to make the appointment, but that the doctor's office never called him back. It's all very convoluted. But regardless of the reasoning, it looks like Jacob Weidman is in prison for good with no end in sight.
Just for
that.
Gosh.
Yep. The parents of Eric Kane are, of course, delighted by this.
I'm sure.
Yeah. They feel that he should be behind bars forever. And they actually, like, there's letters that they would send the court because they would, like, follow him after he got out on parole and, like, find any little thing to pick at to tell the parole board, like, here, he's doing this, he's doing that.
At some point, you gotta move on.
It's at some point it becomes an obsession, and I feel like that's kind of the path that they went down, unfortunately. Many people believe that the state of Arizona is using Jacob to prove a point. Fuck around and find out, essentially. They are showing people that they're not tolerating any funny business when it comes to parole. Like, you make one small mistake and you're done. You're done.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know how to feel about this. Like, on one hand, yeah, if you violate parole, you should be back in prison, period. Yeah. But this is such a minor offense. And if Jacob really was trying to make an appointment with the psychologist and they weren't returning his calls, which we all know can happen. It's happened to me before where I've called my doctor several times to get an appointment and they don't call me back.
I think they just hit delete on all the messages.
Probably. But yeah, and there's proof that he was trying to make these appointments. So I feel like maybe a little bit of grace could have been given in this case. But as always, what do I know? I'm just some bitch.
Some bitch.
Yeah. So yeah, Jacob Weidman is still in prison for this parole violation. And I mean, all of his requests have been denied. So who knows what's even going to happen. But I mean, there is a possibility that he really will be in prison for the rest of his life now.
I don't know how I feel about this.
It's very difficult because on one hand, as a parent, I understand if someone takes the life of your child. I get it. It's got to be hard to forgive. Like, of course, you're never going to forget.
No.
But at some point, for your own sanity, I feel like it's probably best to try to forgive if the person is remorseful. And it seems that Jacob Weidman is remorseful.
Yeah, I agree.
He has done a lot to better himself. He did a lot in preparation for eventually being, reintegrated back into society. It's not like he was, causing problems in prison and, I don't know. It's very, very confusing because I see both sides.
I see both sides too. And I don't know, like you said, with the parents.
There's also...
It's hard.
There's also extenuating circumstances though. Like, he was 16 years old at the time.
Right.
We've talked about this before.
Yep.
Your brain is not fully developed.
Especially as a male.
Oh, yeah. Especially as a male. And I'm not saying that to be funny. That is scientifically...
Yeah, it's science.
Yeah. But also, he had an untreated mental illness. And epilepsy is no fucking joke. Like, especially the kind that he had and the symptoms that it causes, the hallucinations, if he was properly medicated... I don't know. He hadn't shown any violent tendencies since he was in prison.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's a pattern. I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I do feel for him.
Yeah. I feel for both. I feel for the family of Eric Kane, and I feel for Jacob Weidman and his family.
Right. See, here's my thing. Like you said, though, at some point, I can't imagine what it's like losing a child.
No.
Like, I can't.
Especially to violence like that.
Correct. However, I feel like me as a person, knowing what I know about the person who did it, like you said, A, he was 16. Not that that's an excuse.
Right.
B, the mental capability. Yeah. He could have been hallucinating that he was like some kind of monster.
Yeah, who knows?
Was protecting himself, but who knows? And then knowing that he didn't have any other mishaps or, anything.
And he's remorseful. He has said over and over that he wishes that he could take it back and he's sorry, but sorry seems like a silly word and it's not enough and which it's not.
No.
Sorry doesn't make up for ever taking the life of someone.
No.
But
he did try to better himself.
Yes.
He is trying to better himself, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. Or is he a master manipulator? You know what I mean? Like what?
Good point. I mean, that's what the family of Eric Kane thinks.
See, I don't know about that because he was only 16.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he married 2 different psychologists.
I know.
Like
that detail throws me off. I'm not even going to lie.
But he's still married to the one.
Yes, correct. They have been married for years.
And in prison, you really
Since 2013. So it's a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's longer than most marriages nowadays.
It's true. You don't have contact with a lot of other women when you're in prison. So like...
Correct. Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
So, there's not a lot of options.
No. I'm just trying to work through it in my head.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess I could see if you're in a room with someone talking to them and you're connecting with them on a mental level and an emotional level, I guess I could see how romantic feelings would kind of creep in.
What does he look like?
He's not bad looking.
All right, let's have a look-see.
Let's have a look-see. That's him and his wife, the psychologist. And he's not bad looking.
He looks like, oh my God, what's his name? Stifler.
Stifler?
Stifler.
Oh, shit, what is his name? The Stifler.
Sean William Scott.
Yeah. He does a little bit.
Like the eye shape.
Yeah.
Side note, when I ran promotions, I had one of my promo models went on a date with him.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd she say?
She, wherever they filmed Dukes of Hazzard, she lived there at the time.
Oh,
and she was a server.
Yeah.
And they came in, and when I say she's stunning. He was like, oh, I'm free tomorrow night. We're not filming. You want to go out? So she went out with him.
Oh my God.
She said he was a super kind gentleman.
Aww.
Like, very nice.
Good.
Funny in real life. Like, treated her well.
Good.
But then at the end of the night, went in for a kiss. I feel like you don't want to like publicize this. No, she said he was the worst kisser that she had like ever made out with. Well, and that was like a deal breaker for her. I'm like, are you kidding?
Teach him. In his defense, kissing is subjective.
Yeah.
Like what one person might like, another. I don't know. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, but
somebody might want you to bite their lip. The other person doesn't.
Right. You never know. So that's a very interesting story.
I know.
You know, I'm going to go on another digression here, but did you know that our age bracket is now the same age as Stifler's mom?
We're MILFs.
Yeah. Remember when we would watch American Pie and we'd be like, oh my God, can you believe that this kid is like getting with this older woman? And now we're the older women? Oh my God. All right, I'm done.
Think about that.
No.
Damn it.
No, we're the same age as Stifler's mom.
I got some work to do on myself because I do not look as good as Stifler's mom. So I'm going to start brushing my hair.
Jennifer Coolidge is a fucking goddess.
She's a legend.
She will never not look good.
I feel like
never.
She's like in the same category as Betty White. Like they're American treasures.
Yes. She's amazing. Yeah. And she's funny.
She's hysterical.
I love her. But yeah, we are the same age as Stifler's mom.
Great.
And you know what's real crazy? I was talking to my friends about this the other day. Can you imagine getting with an 18-year-old boy?
No.
No. Blech. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Ugh.
I literally just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Anywho,
gross.
Yeah. It's a lot to unpack, right?
Yeah, I don't want to think about that.
No, I don't either. They're kids. That's like a child. She was like age 18, just the way I like it. Ew. All right, with that, I'm done. Yeah, enjoy your summer, guys. Yeah. I'll try to find some more summer ones for you.
I won't. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening.
See you next Tuesday.
But don't be one.
Bye.
Bye.